You're listening to a Pubhouse Network podcast for developers by developers.
All right, so hello and welcome to Stack Podcast episode number 54, recording on December 3rd, 2021. My name is Kito Man. I'm your host, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Josh Juneau and Daniel Hinojosa. And hopefully we'll have Ian Levitz with us later. So just to introduce myself, I'm the principal consultant at Virtua, where we do training, consulting, mentoring, etc., with a variety of technologies, including microservices, Jakarta EE, JSF, front-end technologies like Angular and web components. And I guess I've been busy doing a lot of that stuff lately, and conferences. I actually started doing virtual conferences again. I took a big break, so that's been kind of fun. So how are you doing, Josh? What you been up to? Tell us about yourself.
Doing well. Everything's going okay. Keeping busy, of course, with the holidays coming up. That's always a busy time of year, but a great time of year. So my name, just so everyone knows, if they didn't know already, Josh Juneau. I'm a Java EE and Jakarta EE developer and an Oracle database administrator by day. I'm an author and open source contributor by night. I'm a board member of the Chicago Java Users Group, and I am part of the Apache NetBeans PMC and also a Java champion. And so I've been working lots with projects at work and like I said, holiday things, lots of family things, busy times right now because the kids are doing basketball. So I've got a couple of those going on, in different directions. And so, just keeping busy.
Nice. Danno, how you doing?
Yo, good. I'm Daniel Hinojosa. Nice. I guess I ended up a one-man global corporation somehow along the way. So do a lot of work for places around the world now. So that's kind of been interesting. Yeah. Before it just used to only be this country. So, doing Java stuff, doing Scala stuff, doing Kubernetes probably has taken more of my life now than realized. So I'm in that domain quite a bit now. So also in the ops space, DevOps space, and so spread thin, and also machine learning. So good stuff all around.
Very cool.
Nice.
One of the conferences that I was in this week was at TDC. Excuse me there. The TDC Future conference, which is actually hosted in Brazil, but they've got a lot of international speakers as well. So it's got a really good broad range of topics. But there is one topic on teaching ML for kids that I really enjoyed, because I was like, because my kids spend all this time in Scratch, and there's actually all these ML blocks now that you can use in Scratch. And I was like, this is great because I can now teach them, about ML. And one of their main points was that there's it's good for kids to learn about it now, and not even if they're not going to do programming, but just so they understand the impact of machine learning and AI. So when they're older, they have some idea, all the ways that it's affecting their lives.
Right.
It's that's a really good point. So I think I might even, the next time I'm at a conference that's doing kid talks, I might, they've got a lot of, I'll put this in the show notes. They've got some, lots of lessons that people can teach at schools and stuff. But I think I might actually do a presentation, take some of those lessons with Scratch or something for kids. That might be fun. So. But on a completely different topic, we have a special guest today. So we're very pleased to have with us Francisco López-Sancho Ibrahim. I think I got it wrong. Probably butchered name. But so Francisco recently wrote a book called Akka in Action and works for Lightbend, the Scala and Akka company. And we're very happy to have him join us. So welcome, Francisco.
Hello, nice to be here. And I don't know, would you like me to introduce myself?
Yes, please.
And I'm a consultant in Lightpen. I've been doing that for the last 3 years. And I try to enable companies most of the time to get into speed generally with Akka. And I've been lucky enough to be traveling around the world quite a bit and being a consultant, not only for this company, for the previous one, what actually was bought by Teradata, which is kind of an old company, but and also traveling here and there and doing some consulting. So, and writing the book. And for the last year, I've been writing the book quite a lot, spending like a lot of time doing that, and still not yet finished. But I guess the first draft is already done, and now it comes the hard work to make it pretty. But we'll see.
I don't know, man. I think the hard work is is writing the book to begin with. But
that was hard.
First draft. Yep.
Yep. It's like having a baby or something. Well, not that I know, because I never had a baby personally, but
by the time you get to the third draft, though, it's really laborious, right? You've read your material 3 times now, and probably more than that. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I understand. But what happens many times, sorry to interrupt that, when talking to you about the draft, what I see myself is kind of thinking about as a writer. When I hear these movies, they talk about, man, I have just a blank page and I don't know what to put there. And I think that when you start the chapter, you kind of know what you want to talk about, but until you don't finish the chapter, you don't know really.
Yep. Once you get going, you get that direction and it just kind of starts to flow. Yeah. But it takes a while to get going. Yes.
I think of writing sort of like building code. It's just that it's more fluid, right? It's like with code, like sometimes it just doesn't run. It may work in your head, but not run. But with writing, it's like you still have to build it. You still have to be like structurally accurate, So I don't know. To me, it fires a lot of the same neurons in my head.
Yeah.
I remember once long ago listening to an editor talking about how to rewrite quick and quality literature and journalism, I think it was. And she was saying that how to just to throw your ideas there, try not to edit at the beginning, and then to iterate and iterate. And that was the way you work in journalism. And definitely, I think that could really map well to agile, right? Like how to write that.
Yeah, definitely. Get your MVP out first, and then worry about iterating it to make it perfect. So, I'm just curious. How did you get? What brought you to Lightpen? What were you doing beforehand?
No, I couldn't tell. I mean, I think I was kind of lucky, to be honest. I was in a good position in Teradata, and I was as a consultant. I think I was quite solid, and I was traveling. I mean, as I said, United States, Japan, or Europe, and everywhere. So I guess that's what they saw in me. That they say, like, well, I guess this guy can deliver, and it's been a blast since then because it's like a very technical company. You are a consultant, but you work a lot with code, and you have the opportunity to work with people that build their software. So it's I guess they opened the door. They saw some potential. I'm happy that they saw that, and since then I didn't stop working. Like, it didn't feel like working in many occasions. It's more like learning and working with nice people, very clever people. So
that's awesome. It's like that's what everybody wants to have, right? Is the idea where you're working, but it's just fun.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I love it. So far, I've never been this long. 3 years in a company and actually thinking about staying. And I'm just saying that. I'm good so far.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Well, do you want to tell us about your book and tell us about Akka for those that don't know? And
Sure.
Yeah, take it from there.
Yeah, okay. The book, it's, and then I can come back later. There's a first edition of that book that it was written, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago or something like that. I don't really remember. I didn't write it. So. But the thing is that since then, the Akka toolbox has changed so much, and especially they changed from untyped to typed. And even though it was, it not just have to be Scala, but it can be also Java, but being Scala and not being typed, that is always a thing that they have in mind to change. And they finally did it a couple of years ago, and then, maybe a little bit more. And then I have the opportunity. They offered me to write the book, and I say, yes, of course. I'm very happy to write it. I didn't know it was going to be that hard, but time-wise, and but it's just so much fun. And
right.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, what is an actor?
Exactly. Let's start from the beginning.
Yeah.
What is an actor? Well, an actor is part of the actor model, and the actor model, it's a model that Carl Hewitt, it was created in 1973. And the idea is that sometimes people, when you hear the actor model, I think they think about already some sort of implementation, or it has very much to do with computer science, but it has to do, of course, with computer science, but in the lowest degree. Like you can compare that to Turing machines or lambda calculus. So it's a model, like really basic to how to deal with computation. And they have some axioms, and those axioms are that you have actors. That actors can communicate with each other. They can create another actors, and they can change their behavior. And those are the principles. And on top of that, you just build things. And that is really good for some reasons, particularly because you can abstract concurrency from it. When you work with long ago, when you used to work with threads, and still that long ago, many people still work with threads. There's a really difficult model to keep in your mind, and really easy to mess it up. And I think this model from the beginning has these properties that allow you to compute things in local, which is the actor, and the actor doesn't really have to worry about the rest of the world. They are consistent inside themselves, and that it is because you do not have access to the actor state, the internals of the actor. You just can communicate with messages, and so you tell them what you would like them to do, and they will answer you. Maybe they will answer, they will not answer, but with that kind of communication, you avoid I guess the majority of the problems that you get with concurrency in many other frameworks and ideas.
Right. Go ahead, Kito.
I was going to say, okay, so basically, you have an actor. You can tell the actor to do stuff, and you're not responsible for managing how the actor executes that work, right? So can you give us some common scenarios where Akka is a good choice, like some sort of common tasks that it's used for?
Yeah, I guess that one of the best choice, what would you like to have? I think maybe the best of them, it comes even before Akka, like with Erlang. Erlang was the first implementation of the actor model by Joe Armstrong, genius, of course. Much of the communications with in Ericsson, they were made in Erlang. And I guess it doesn't matter that it's Erlang or it's Akka, what it gives you, I think in this case, the Akka cluster, but so one of the properties I told you about the concurrency is good for concurrency Akka, but it's really good for distribution as well. So it is really for them, it's really easy to work in distributed systems And on top of that, Akka especially is good for mobility, meaning that if some actor dies, the system can heal itself. And what that gives you is resiliency. So you may span like a really huge cluster, and you maybe have partitions in the cluster, and the cluster will heal itself sooner rather than later. So I guess use cases that you can find. You have a platform that you deal with hundreds of millions of euros a day that pass through your platform, and you may need, for instance, have to pay like a lot of money if you miss a payment for more than $1 million or for more than X millions. What you want in that system is resiliency, like a lot of resiliency. You really, I mean, every time that you miss something there is going to be a big fine for you. So in systems like work with money and they are distributed and they have to be resilient, it is really good choice. That is also, I mean, it is so basic, the model that it can be applied for everything. And nowadays that since the Moore's law, probably everybody knows here, but Moore's law that he was saying that computers were getting 50% more density and therefore more performance every year, or every year and a half or 18 months. Now it's not there anymore. You cannot rest on waiting for the companies to do bigger machines and put your software there. So, and because of that, now what you have is distributed computing. And you have, instead of having big machines, you have multiple machines. And I guess in that, Akka is like a really good fit. Like it's really built for distribution, and therefore it's easy to think about in those terms. Another example, for instance, I can think of is digital twins, for instance, that you have like millions of digital twins. Like let's say like you have cars, and you want to get telemetry from each one of the cars, and the cars they have each one of them a state, and so you want to keep that state in the car, and then you may say, well, that the car will be an actor, so I can put all the information that I want in that actor. That actor will be kind of autonomous. If it goes down because the cluster nodes, and if it belongs to a cluster, if it goes down, it can be healed, it can be brought back again. So it has its state, but it can recover it. So that will be also like a great use case, and everything in between. And I mean, I've seen like companies like, for instance, just to process data, as Danny was saying, that just streaming data. One of the things that Akka has like is really amazing, powerful. I think that we never advertise as much as we should Akka streams, because again, it's like a very fundamental idea. It's like really basic way of doing a streaming that provides you back pressure, meaning that if you have like a producer that produces more than the consumer can take, it will balance itself. It will stop producing until the consumer give them the go to say, yeah, I can consume. So just for streaming, for instance, is also really good. Streaming, for instance, that doesn't have a state, because Akka streamers do not have a state in default. I mean, you could mix it. I mean, I'm thinking about Flink, for instance. I don't know if you know Flink. Is some sort of and then that's the Flink is really great dealing with the state and Windows, for instance. If you have to deal with the state of a session of a user, what happened in the session, in overall the session, we can do those things as well. I mean, you can put an actor on top of the stream and hold the session for that, but now it's more machinery. So streams are great, are really powerful, and can be mixed with the state of an actor. But yeah, I mean, that depends on what you want to compete against. Flink, for instance, they're using Akka under the hood as well. But
what is Flink exactly?
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's just that I guess each one lives in his chamber, and And you always think that everybody knows what you hear every day, right?
Well, Danno knows what you're talking about. So
Probably, yeah. Looks like you know.
No, that's fine. Yeah. I'd rather hear your perspective on it. So yeah, Apache Flink, and I'll put it on the show notes.
Okay,
FLINK is another. It's, I guess, a streaming platform. I guess would probably be the better definition for it. And maybe I'm thinking about it wrong, and maybe I've always had it wrong. And you can clear this up for me, Francisco. Is the when it comes to actors, it's both a concurrency library to help you with, threading and thread contention and state and all that good stuff, like you mentioned. Would you say it's also a message queue? Do you think it's used in that way as well? Like it's some would use this less as a concurrency API library and more just like, I'm going to send a message over to that actor and that's where it's going to hold those messages. Do you find a lot of use cases like that, or is that a misuse of Akka?
No, I don't find that much uses of that. I mean, I think it happens the moment that you put an actor. I can think on cases of that. For instance, a betting company. It's not just a creation of betting companies. For instance, I know for a fact that they use Akka, and that's for instance, to get bets. The market changes. They need to read from let's say Kafka. What is happening in the market, how the odds are changing here and there. And there you have your actor. Your actor, what it can do actually is precisely what you're saying, is just listening to that Kafka topic and keep all those messages and process them when they can, when the actor can. So it just has its own queue, what is called the mailbox. And you just send it to the actor keeps them there and process one by one. What I was saying at the beginning, that the actors can communicate through messages, create more actors, and change their behavior. What is important to understand when you work with actors is that from that queue, every time you process one message, you need to say at the end, and that it has to do with a new version Akka type, what is your behavior after that message? So you get that, and that is like a state machine. So it's like a door open or close door, where you say, I process the message, I do whatever I have to do, and after processing the message, my new state is going to be whatever. And it's going to be, the market now is closed. So you give me another change of the market, I will not change my value. I'm sorry, this is the last thing I do for you. And that is a really powerful abstraction that also allows you to have, actually, it's an essential part of the actor model, the Akka implementation, that's for sure. The actor model, I read it a few times, but it's really complicated. It's like reading math, like reading maths, and I tried to figure that out, and I say, well, I guess I understand, but not quite. So anyways.
Do you find a lot of people build state machines with it?
Yes, I mean,
I can totally see that, like, would be a logical platform for that. Basically, a distributed state machine.
Yeah, that is the exact, and I think that people, the moment they see it, is just say like, wow, I mean, this is powerful. It's simple. It's just, I have my state machine. I tell you what to do. I don't have to think about anything at all. I just one message at a time. So I don't need to think about concurrency. And we have one library that nowadays that is called Akka persistence. That is precisely that. Like it's you have some. It's like heavily built on a state machine, and it's that you have commands, you have events, and what you do is you receive your commands, you do whatever you need to do, and that produces an event. So the command is what you ask to the actor to do. The actor produces whatever it needs to produce, the relation and whatever. I mean, calls another service or not, and at the end, it takes that event, and that event it persists in the database, and also, but that's what is called persistence. it tells at the end what is going to be the next behavior. Tool is going to say, well, the next after that, I'm going to just deal with these kind of commands or the other kind of commands that my state is going to change. And what is really cool about that, which is really heavily used, is that that state of the actor, if that actor dies, that's what I was saying, like the resiliency, that state is persisted. So the moment it expands again, it will read from the database all the events that happened before, and it will process them again until it reaches its last state back and continues. So
nice.
Simple ideas. It's really simple ideas, and you say, well, okay, yeah, that's easy to grasp and easy to use, I guess.
So
go ahead, Josh. Yep.
I just was going to mention from a newbie's perspective, I've not used Akka before. I've actually not used Scala much before myself. So if we were to pick up your book, does it kind of go from the ground up? Or is this something that is kind of a stepping stone? What type of material do you have?
Oh, well, I appreciate that question. I'm going to sell myself a little bit here. No, yeah, totally. I would say that was my intention from the beginning, that people that had like zero background in actors, they felt like they are easy. So the chapter first is just telling you a little bit about this concurrency stuff that I was talking about. And chapter second, it is the smallest actors that you can have to say, well, how can I send messages to an actor? How can I receive messages? How can I do different kind of calls between actors? And it builds, step by step. Then in the chapter 3, how to test them. 4, 5, and 6, I guess, is like the cluster part. How can you start to build clusters to say, oh, and I see how to work with them, and I kind of, and then you see like, well, it's not much you have to do. It's just to configure the thing. And so if you configure, you put the config file there, and Akka will do it for you. And then, well, if you want to deploy in Kubernetes, you need like another file, but it's more configuration. So you configure stuff. So it goes from the beginning to the clustering, and then passes through this persistence that I was saying, until at the end, it's I'm trying to be like a microservice in which you have this betting thing that I was talking about before. And it has like multiple entities of these persistent entities I'm talking about. It has also ports or HTTP endpoints where you can not only, because one of the things that happened many times it used to happen at the beginning is that you have an actor systems, and then your question is, how can I communicate to the actor system from outside the actor system? And it was not that easy at the beginning. And then they created Akka HTTP, and now there is also the possibility of gRPC. And so at the end, you end the book like saying, okay, I guess I remember you will build a cluster with entities that persist, that I can send them messages. And I think that I really wanted to people to be able to see that it's really easy once you know what are the things, because documentation is really good, but it's massive. It's just, you don't know where to start. So Okay. Maybe you can.
Yeah, that's where I think definitely it sounds like the book for people like me coming into it fresh, because if you try and go look at the documentation, lots of times that can be pretty daunting.
It is daunting for everybody. Says that it's great documentation because it explains everything, but sometimes less is more, I guess.
Yeah.
Nice, so does the book so for those of us who are more Java people than Scala people, does the book cover the Java bindings, or is it just the Scala bindings?
I'm sorry. That's my mistake. But I really wanted to do it in Scala, and what I thought, but I guess that depends if people engage with the book, and if people want to start to like fork or work with me in building the very same examples in Java, I'm very happy to. I would say, well, yeah, okay. It's just that once you start with the Scala, it is so much easier and less code that you get like spoiled, and you start to see about the Java code, and it happens in Lightbend. It happens to all of us. The moment you get there, But many clients work with Java actually. But it's like if we can avoid it, we do avoid it.
So I had an interesting question on that. Then is that lightband? I don't know. I think this was even explicitly stated. Is that lightband considers itself a Java company? True or false, or would you agree with that?
Good question.
Or
I don't know.
I thought they were trying to like reflect, or trying to get everyone to think, hey, we're actually just we're just like a Java based company. But then Lightbend, is, I don't know, do they fund Scala development? I don't know if that's true or not. They have an affinity towards Scala, I guess. I don't know. What is that relationship? I mean, maybe I don't know. I don't know what happened to Lightbend. I think they wanted to become a Java company, but I think it's a little bit different now. But maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know how to answer to that, to be honest. I think that we are a consultancy company, and therefore what the customers want, that's what we try to help with.
Right.
But the thing is that I think we are biased toward Scala, and we recommend it always, if possible. So, but what happens many times is that they don't have the teams. They don't want to invest the money and the time until they get up to speed into that. But lately, I don't know, probably you don't know. You don't know that we have a new product that is called Akka Serverless, and it's backed by Akka, like Akka cluster and all the things that I've said. But what you have in front is like a facade that you can use. You don't really build actors anymore. It's more like not really. You don't communicate through messages and things like that. All is that hidden from you, and you can build those things in Java or in Scala and JavaScript. And we probably will do. We have a Python, but it's small, so we understand that the world is more Java based. Period. I mean, it's more everything than Scala. Scala is like a small place, and the world is much more big than that. So I wouldn't say that. I guess we are trying to get more global in that sense, to say it doesn't matter what the kind of you can use our product. But if I have to pick, I think Java and Scala is the two languages that we work with mostly.
Okay, cool. I agree with you with Scala, but I think sometimes we're in the minority because I think Scala still scares people, but and I think my opinion is that, Scala came out, 2003 is when it came out, but it probably didn't get heavy use until around 2008. But all this was before Lambdas came out with Java 8. So I think people were very scared about what functions are and what Lambdas are at the time that Scala came out. I think it's unfair that Scala still gets that reputation just because, Java already has Lambdas now. It has streams and people have been using it. I think people have been adopting it, and I think it's welcoming. And Kotlin has come out ever since, and people have been enjoying that as well. Whereas Scala has been, hey, we've had this forever. Hey, what about us? And I think there's just timing, I guess. But
that makes me, that brings up a question. Like for you two Scala guys, what do you guys think of Kotlin? Like, what is your perspective? Do you think it's comparable? Do you think it's just just very different, or do you feel like if Scala had come out at the same time, that it would be in the same place Kotlin is in?
Go ahead, Francisco.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure. Are you comparing Scala with Java or with Kotlin or
with Kotlin?
Scala versus Kotlin.
Yes.
Yeah. I couldn't tell. I don't know Kotlin at all, like zero. So.
All right, fair enough.
All I know is if you mix them together, you get the country of Scotland.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
I keep saying that because I don't know what it is, because it's not that I will think about Scotland, but every time I want to say Scala and Kotlin, I will end up saying Scotland.
Scotland. You know, I kind of contribute some of Scala's original thunder or presence in the community with the Java Posse, because I do remember listening to those podcasts long ago, and I'm not sure if I remember if it was Dick Wall, who was a Scala enthusiast, but one of the main members.
I remember.
They were really into it and pushed it, and that's when I started to look at it. And then the Java Posse kind of retired, and it wasn't too much later that Scala it didn't. I don't want to say it faded in the background, but it kind of did take a step back.
I think it scared people, and that's just my opinion. And I think Kotlin is not Scala. I mean, I think from what I've seen, Kotlin has a lot of great characteristics, great attributes as far as a language that is inspired by Scala, and they have no qualms in saying that this is truly inspired by Scala. Scala also inspired Swift. Scala inspired a lot of different languages. Sure. Scala, I think, is ahead of the game, and I don't think they get a lot of credit for it. But they do a lot of great things within that particular language. But, it scares people as well. And so it has this, this weird dynamic that they have such a hard time with. Scala 3 is amazing. I love that language, and they have so many wonderful attributes. But by the time you start talking about implicits, I think, I don't know what you think about this, Francisco. There are features that still just scare people, implicits, type classes, and things like that are just like, ooh, I don't know. I don't know what this is, and they get a little bit fearful of it. I don't know if you have any opinions on that, Francisco.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I mean, I think implicits is for, it's scary for most of the people, sometimes even for us, that when you don't know that implicit for when it comes from, and you say, what is the scope of that implicit? That is things that you have in your scope in your class that you don't really know where they come from, and you say, well, that sounds like a global, like something global here that maybe it's not that clear. Definitely type classes is super powerful, and not maybe as clean, I guess, as in Haskell, but the moment that you understand that you can add functionality to a class without not inheriting it, so you don't need to be dependent from the class, but you can add functionality to say, well, to that int, I can add this functionality to that class that exists already. That is just mind-blowing to say, oh, it's like an absolutely different model. I mean, I can add things there with it, and it's like put in, and it's like a Lego. But what I think it happens most of the time is that management, it scares management, Scala. That with the discussions that I have with management generally, with architecture or directors, is that they find out, oh yeah, we would love to have the Scala team, but what will happen if the guys go away? How can I get people back? So I guess it's more about the commercial part of Scala in the community in general. That
there's more of a Java hiring pool than there definitely is with Scala.
I can agree with that as well.
Yeah, it's always a consideration.
I think.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if Kotlin's going to suffer the same. But yeah, go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you didn't interrupt. I just was going to say, I wonder if I know when I think of Scala, I think of functional programming, and I think functional does, like you've mentioned, Daniel, kind of scare people away because functional is different, right? That's not what we're used to doing with regular Java. So there's a learning curve there. But as you had mentioned, I've dabbled in Scala just a little. I'm not very much, but I think once you start to get the hang of it, it's really easier to use and so much less verbose that it's definitely something worth learning if people would just kind of get over that initial hurdle.
And also I haven't really worked with it much either, but I did when it first came out. I got all excited and read a book or two or something. But what I liked about it was that it wasn't so purely functional that that it was harder for a Java person to pick up. Like, when you look at a language like Clojure or something that's like more of a pure functional language, it's like a little harder for an OO person to sort of grapple around. But I felt like with Scala, you could sort of ease into it better.
Right, because Haskell doesn't have classes or objects or like that kind of state that you're used to with Java. So it was nice to have that. Hey, I'm going to create a class. That's where my state's going to be stored, and I have that object orient. Well, that's what Java ended up being, right? Java ended up with those classes, but Java learned a lot from, I think, Scala. I don't know if they would admit it or not. But like we now have records and we have streams, and it's getting very close. Yeah.
And I think that's always been the function of a lot of the JVM languages, is that they just improve Java over time. Although still, I've actually been doing some Groovy lately because I've been working with Jenkins pipelines.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, I whenever I work with Groovy, I love it. I mean, hey, this is great.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, totally.
So.
I have two theories. One is Scala helps Java, and then Java helps Scala. I think there's a cyclic thing that goes on, and one example would be, records would be one. Like Scala had the case classes, and I guess Groovy did it as well. And so all these languages, help out Java. Now Java has records. But another example of it cycling back would be like functions, the lambdas. So the way Scala had it was that they used an interface called function 1, function 2, function 3, function 4, function 5. And that's the way functions were modeled. And they kind of still have that. But if you look behind the scenes now, they actually are using Java functions, Java lambdas behind the scenes. So they said, wow, they really did a really good optimized job on how to do these lambdas. Let's use that. And there are a few things that even Java does that I'm just like, I wish I had this in Scala. And one of them is the way the lambda brackets are. Like if I have a single line lambda in Scala, I have to use a paren. But if I need to make it a multi-line lambda, I got to go to where those parentheses are and change them to brackets. Whereas Java has a really smart thing, is that if you need to make it multi-line, you go into the second section, where you have like after the arrow, and you just put brackets around that, and that's so much easier. It's the smallest thing, but it drives me nuts in Scala because I always have to like change a bunch of text and just to make a multi-line function. But Java did a far better job with it. So I think that's what happens, is that Scala pushes the envelope, breaks new ground, and then Java says, hey, that's a great idea, but let's do this. And one of them, I always get stung by Brian Getz. He always seems to correct me on things on Twitter.
On
I'm very happy for it. And one of them is like tuples. And someone had asked, hey, what are some features you want in Java? And I'm like, I want tuples the way they are in Scala. And then Brian Getz was like, no, we're not doing that. Sorry. And I'm like, why not? And then he's like, because types and names matter. And I'm like, that is profoundly good. Thank you. Because, having an employee with a first name and a string, all that means something. In Scala, I think one of the things that just like it makes everything unreadable is that we have like ._1 when it comes to tuples, ._2. And sometimes, I don't know, Francisco, if you've ever ended up with _._1 ._2 ._1 because you're like violating the law of Demeter and like really digging into like multi layers of tuples. And Brian Getz is absolutely right. Like it's nice having a name, it's nice having a context, and maybe tuples in Scala was not such a hot idea. Maybe always making everything a case class and using that and using names is just a great idea. Another one is non-denotable types in Java. I don't know if you've ever seen that, Kito or Josh. Have you seen that? That's amazing. So non-denotable types.
Realized it, but
yeah. Oh man, I don't know why they don't sell this more. So it is, you're inside of a Lambda. You type a new object, open and close paren bracket, and then you have public member variables with a type in it. and you could just pass that down on the next section of your stream and next section and next section. So in other words, you don't have to create a tuple. You don't even have to create a record or a class. You just create an ad hoc object that has member variables and types, and it's very safe. And you just, reference them downstream on your stream or your pipeline or your whatever it is that you want. Super duper powerful. And again, that's one of those features that Java brings out that now I'm looking at Scala as, man, hey, you know what? This would be great.
Yeah, now that you mentioned about the tuples, I remember when I joined the company, I still remember I was working with this one of our consultants. It was called Paul Dale, blue hair, very clever guy, very knowledgeable, pretty cool. And I learned pretty quick about the tuples. I kind of, I don't know if it was the first day or the second day, like he look at me and say, dude, tuples suck. Like,
really? They did? He said that, yeah.
I said,
yeah.
What's so? I said, dude, just put names. And I say, okay,
totally.
That makes sense.
Yeah, your brain needs that. Your brain needs that name. Your brain's not going to understand, what am I looking at with ._1, ._2? Like, what is that? And so very good. I'm an advocate of that now, but it took me a while to change on that.
Yeah, the original author's name, or the original author may know exactly what's going on, but when somebody has to come down and maintain that code later on, that's going to be like spaghetti. It'll be difficult.
Yeah. Right. I mean, that's just something we see in a lot of languages, like Python's really good at that, right? Pass in something with an arbitrary number of fields, which is great for processing data. But yeah, not so easy to read.
Right. But Scala now looks like Python. It's kind of weird.
That is weird.
So Scala 3 has, colon and indentation spaces where indentation matters.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, I gotta look at it. That's fascinating.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's what for me one of the best features. And actually, Martin Odersky, he used to say that like often. And one of the features that I like the most is just the brackets, enums as well. But just to forget about it, because sometimes it's just like you are the Mr. Bracket and you looking and counting and say just forget about it. You just put your things in order. And I don't know. What's your take on that? Would you prefer?
At first, mine was like, I don't want to do this. I'm a JVM programmer. I'm like, I love my brackets. You can't make me change. And then I started doing it. I'm like, man, this is nice. I like this. This is pretty good. And I can easily be a convert. One of the things, since I do a lot of, I don't do a lot of machine learning. I don't even call myself a data scientist. But whenever I find myself in Python, I didn't realize this until I picked up one of the machine learning books, and it was typed Python. Like you can optionally add types to it, and I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, that was the last time I did Python. As soon as I saw I could do that, it was like 3. Is it Python 3 something? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there's a type. There's an optional type.
As soon as I saw that, I was like, I'm using that.
And so I don't know if you've seen it, Francisco. Take a look at typed Python, and I'll try to find that book for you. Yeah, but nice. when you look at it, I guarantee you, Francisco, if you've not seen it yet, you're looking at Scala. You are exactly looking at Scala, and I didn't realize how very close Python and Scala are. I think they are more related than most people think.
I'm looking at Scala 3 now because I really like Python. Whenever I work with it, I really enjoy it. So cool.
Yep, I was a Python guru back in the day.
Oh, you were? Oh, that's great. Yeah.
So
good old Python. Hey, you should be doing that on GraalVM now, dude.
I should be. Yeah, I have to get back.
I don't think it's quite as. I don't think it's quite as mature, right? Like I think that's one of the most lagging components on GraalVM, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I agree.
I could be wrong, though.
I think it is not, because I remember I was looking when I was doing last time I was doing Python. I did a quick look to GraalVM to see if I could run in there because I'm a JVM guy, and I couldn't. So yeah.
Just a quick note about Scala 3. I believe there is a Java Pubhouse podcast where Freddie and Bob cover Scala 3 in detail.
Okay, so
I'm like right there. Why did they knock on my door, man?
I don't know. I just actually was looking the other day and I saw that they published that. So maybe they'll have you on there as a follow-up.
Yeah.
Too late now, man. Just kidding.
Well, I should just, since they're part of our, so just in case you didn't know, Stacked is part of the Pubhouse Network, and there's a couple other podcasts, one of which is Java Pubhouse, which is, you're not on that one, Josh, right?
No, that's Freddie and Bob.
Okay, right. And then Off Heap, that's the one you're on.
Correct.
And you're on there with Freddie and who? And Bob too?
Freddie, Bob, and then Michael Manila. He is actually with Spring.
Okay, yes, I remember. Okay, now, right.
Yeah.
Right, so if you want to find them, just go to pubhouse.net.
Yeah. And a little backstory there, Kito, just to let you know how faithful I am to you.
Okay.
There was an Off Heap, and Off Heap was like, oh, you should just, come join our podcast. I'm like, no, I'm with Kito. Sorry. But now we're all together, one big family, and we just ended up together. So it works out. So even if I did it, it's just, we're all the same family, but
it's all good now.
It's all good now.
I appreciate the love.
Appreciate the love. That's right. And I think we, Josh, you're on both, right? Like you're still on Off Heap.
Yeah, I'm still on Off Heap. This started back in about 2015. Freddie just one day invited us out to record it, and we've been going ever since. And
I think that's where I met. That's where I met you. I met you at DevNexus, I think, for the first time there, and that's where I met Freddie as well. And so great group, and take a listen to all these wonderful podcasts on the Pubhouse Network. So a lot of great ones, and hopefully there's some more that are be coming in. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, there's also that breaking into open source too. They've only put out a few of those, but there's a couple there about I guess it's about starting open source projects.
And that's Bob and I. We do that, and it's really on open source projects that are already there, and how you can help contribute to them.
Gotcha.
It just provides overviews of the projects.
We should do that for Jakarta EE, like a Jakarta EE project. If you do that, I will join you.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's my standing invitation.
We should maybe do that early next year sometime. We should look
that would be good. Cool.
So I had one class they needed help with because this was I think it was a financial company that was doing Java EE, and I had to ask Josh some questions what state are we in right now? And I think we've talked about this before, where we're just none of these were bad ideas. All these were just really great. I'm glad Jakarta EE is still maintaining and pushing the envelope as far as Java EE, because there's just a fantastic stack of technologies. And I think, Francisco, you had mentioned that, is that kind of where you got your start as well with Java EE stack before going into Akka and Actor systems?
I remember many years ago, I don't know if 10 years ago, working with JSF. I was in the Ministry of Defense working with that. I will not tell you which.
Wow.
But and that was and I was supposedly to be the expert in that.
Oh wow, nice.
I was far from the. I was the. Is that those moments that happens that you are the least. I don't know how you put it, but I just knew a little bit, and the rest of the team didn't know anything at all. And therefore I became the senior. That was my first senior role, and I was okay to pretend now. I need to do this. And it worked well, but it's the imposter syndrome is always there.
Yes.
Now, what for Java EE, it feels like a bicycle. I was going into it, I'm like, man, everything here was such a good idea, and took to it right away. I'm surprised that my brain still knew everything and knew some of the caveats of what to do and what not to do. So I was hoping someone would a servlet and they were like, should we put a member variable here? And I'm like, no, don't put a member variable on that servlet. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
But it was just like, those things that were ingrained in my head of just like, warning, danger, Mr. Robinson, right? Don't put member variables on those servlets. Yeah. And just fantastic.
Well, it's funny too, because Java EE got the bad rap, but it's like, and actually, there's this talk that I've been trying to do at conferences. I don't think I can schedule to do it yet, but
do it.
Basically, it's like the foundations of a modern Java server apps. So it's like when people are talking about like Spring Boot or Quarkus or whatever newfangled thing, they're using all these Java EE technologies or Jakarta EE technologies. And it's like, okay, so you're writing a JAX RS service and you're using JAX-B in there, or you're using JSON or JSON binding, or they're using like 4 or 5 different specs essentially. And I and one of the ones I've always think has been undervalued. JAX RS was one of them, right? Because that's something people just take for granted. Mm-hmm. Now it's RESTful web services, right? That's what they call it now.
I don't know.
That's the Jakarta EE name. The names are slightly different under Jakarta EE. But the one that I think people always undervalue is bean validation. I mean, to me, that's like, it's an amazing spec, and it's so useful. And especially when you see it like integrated through JAX RS, and in so many places.
You see in Spring Boot now, I think bean validation, JAX RS, is all part of the. Because Spring Boot is, if I'm not a Spring person, but I think it's all opinionated of like, hey, we're choosing the technologies you don't, and here's how you create a microservice sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I think bean validation is part of it. JPA is part of it. Yeah. So still alive, and
that's true for all of them too. Because I spent a lot of time working with Drop Wizard, which is one of the old ones. One of the probably the first like really, really extremely useful microservice framework, and that's it's basically Jersey with JAX RS and bean validation and all that kind of stuff.
So Francisco, a question to you, since I know. Oh, sorry.
I was going to ask you a question, guys. Because
okay. Well, I was going to ask you about really quick about Lagom or Lagom. I don't even know how it's pronounced, but this was Lightben's answer to Spring Boot, I think. I'm not sure. And is that still alive? Has it? What's going on with that one?
Well, it's a long story, I guess. And I don't know if it came out like against. I think that for us, our clients generally when we work with them, Spring Boot is the other technology they always have there. So in that sense, I would say like maybe it's everything in Akka seems to be the other side of the Spring. I don't know if the bright side or the dark one. So, but we'll see about that. And Lagom, I guess, is it was the way I understand it is more the idea, because Akka is a toolbox that it just provides you really small things that it doesn't tell you how to build your applications. But Lagom, it was an opinionated way of building application, and they will tell you how to build your services. It was mainly to create services that actually can stream data, and it was in a way what we already have in pieces back. So now we kind of broke Lagom in pieces. So we found that how can you build things like Lagom, and we put them back in Akka. And now you can build Lagom if you want by yourself. What I mentioned at the beginning, how to build your microservice with your persistent entity, and that is very much like Lagom, to say, well, I can have services, then do you have your ports, and then you have your entities, and then you have your cluster. And like what I can tell you, I mean, and what is the current status of Lagom? I will actually pass in that question because
that's fantastic.
Yes, I will pass on that one.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Because I prefer not to. I think there is people thinking about that. So
yeah, I know. It's a hard thing too, because like a lot of people invest time, a lot of effort, and
Yeah,
so
I mean,
I get that.
The worst case scenario would be that, like with Play, like if there is community that put it out there and to say, well, I mean, everybody can contribute. And I think that the problem that happens with many companies is that when you build upon a technology, you want support, and you really want to pay for that. You say, well, I don't mind to do this. I commit to this open source as long as supported. Because if it's supported, I pay the money, and I get my support, and I get the changes. I think maybe that could be a problem for some people that say, well, if I don't get support, then what would I pay for? But,
that makes sense. So what was the question you wanted to ask?
yeah, sure. I thought that now you were talking about to Lenny. How did you become Java champions? I mean, I think I would love to be one of those. Definitely, I cannot be one of those right now. Maybe in the future, but not in the near future. So, how did you become?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question.
Kito told me to climb a mountain and slay the wolf in my underwear and a sharp stick. And if I came out alive, then I was a Java champion. So
yes, and
I don't know. My journey was a little bit different.
So there are some like general properties that Java champions are supposed to have, but essentially it's just someone who's like publicly really been involved in promoting Java as a technology. That's pretty much what it is. And you just had to be nominated by someone else who is already a Java champion. So it's like sort of a members only club. But and then once you're nominated, all the Java champions get to vote on you and see if you're cool enough to be a member of the club. But that's pretty much all it is. And I think all of us were able to join because we've been very publicly promoting and working with the Java technology for a while. So I think
certainly was podcasts and trainings and bugs
conferences, bugs.
As long as you're out there,
that kind of stuff. And some people, tend, and also a lot of people who are Java champions have run like Java user groups for a long time, or maybe some big open source project, stuff like that. So. But that's basically it. It's people who are like, really into Java ecosystem and have been public about it in some fashion and hopefully impacted others in a positive way.
Yeah,
positive way.
Yes.
Yeah. One time I had just posted the Muppets That Blue Eagle, where he's like all disappointed and Francisco would probably know where I'm coming from with this. Because this is when JDK 9 came out and they introduced the var. And I'm like, what about Val? And they were like, no, we're not using Val. I'm like, why aren't you using Val, man? Like, you can't have a final var because var means it's variable. It's varying. That's why you call it a variable. Why would you do a final var? And I was making my opinions known, and I posted a GIF of like I forgot what that blue eagle from the Muppets is called. Sam the Eagle, I think, where he's like, or he's like really disappointed. And someone told me offline, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't be doing that. And I'm like, all right, I'll stop being a jerk. And I removed that tweet. And I thought, for sure there was something going on that, I wasn't promoting Java very well, or giving good face for Java and like commenting on like some other decisions. So I thought there was something wrong that I was doing there, but I thought it was a funny story because I still think we should have a Val, but
I do too. Because here's the thing: it's like I spent like a couple of years writing TypeScript. I was on front end projects.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, TypeScript I think has Val too. Yeah.
No, they have const. JavaScript has const.
Oh.
It's just called const. It makes perfect sense. It's a constant, right? So then when I went back to writing a lot of Java, I started doing final var everywhere. because that's essentially the same as const. And I'm like, why am I typing 2 words when I could just be typing 1? And it's even harder for me to sell to Java developers because they're like, well, I can see why I'd use final maybe, but why would I use var too? And it's like, because you don't have to type the type in most cases. Not every case, but in like 80-90% of the cases, you can just use var. It works out just fine. But if it was just 1 word, it'd be a lot easier to sell to people, which is sad.
Totally. I know. But we should end this conversation here before we get booted out.
Yeah, so we don't want to get essay from Brian about why there's no vowel.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I know. And I'll be like, oh, of course you're right.
Right. Exactly. All right. Well, we should probably move on. I think we just had a couple news topics we should just mention briefly. Now that we're
you're getting a new Mac, huh?
Well, I've got a new Mac. We are using my new Mac right now.
Really? Okay. So what do you think? That was one of the news items. That's the one I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
So you got a new M1 Pro, huh?
Yeah. So I had, I'm a Mac head, slowly been sucked into the Apple ecosystem. Every time I look around, I have another Apple device now. So, but I had like a MacBook Pro 2017, I think. Yeah. Okay. So 2018. It was a few years old, and like back then,
you certainly deserved it then. Yeah. So yeah, it's been a few years. Yeah.
Yeah, the max I had on RAM was 16 gigs, which was driving me crazy. So I was, and the reason I didn't get one last year is because I was primarily using my client's machine, and so there was really no point in my own company getting a machine at that time. So I went all out. I got the M1 Max with 64 gigs of RAM. Now I didn't max out the drive space. I don't need 8 terabytes or whatever the max is.
Or at least you think you don't need it. That's the problem with this space. No. You don't think you need it. And that's why I'm getting the laptop, because I got this MacBook Air 2019. I didn't know there was a pandemic coming around. And MacBook Air is great, beautiful battery life, and it works. I could use it on a plane. It's very lightweight. It's not heavy. I could just, come in, present on it and leave, and or teach a class and leave. And then the pandemic hit, and brutal. Zoom and maybe Slack. I don't think I need both at the same time, but Zoom just absolutely just brings it down. Right now, I have Zoom at 62% CPU.
Oh, geez.
There you go.
That's it. It just eats it all up.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. Yeah, I've been really pleased. There's a few quirks. There's some weird networking problem that it seems like every day or two the network kind of stops working, and I have to. Although I think I have to reboot or something, or I found that unplugging and replugging in the USB-C dongle I'm using fixes it. Restarting the network interface doesn't, but I think it may have had something to do with Cisco AnyConnect, which I had.
You're out.
I uninstalled that, and I don't think it's happened since. So it might have been it.
Right. But other than that, Cisco and Josh, what's your? You usually get apples? Are you going to get a new one with those 10 cores?
Josh, please. What do you?
Yeah, I use Macs. I've got one that actually I wish I wouldn't have gotten the one I've got, but it's nice. I can't complain. It's got 32 gigs of RAM. I've got a terabyte, but it does have the butterfly keyboard. So, I'm not very happy with that keyboard. I like the older style keyboard, which they did bring back in the newer versions, but I rarely use it. I work at a bar, at my home bar, and it's underneath the bar anyway all the time. And I use my 2 monitors, so I don't ever type on that keyboard anyway. So it doesn't make much of a difference. It's a nice machine. Right. I like Macs.
Okay.
I have a following question. So you have a bar and you work as a computer scientist or whatever.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Don't you? I'm just kidding. Don't you, Francisco? I think we all do.
Well, I have the bar here. I'm enjoying it. Okay.
How come we're not seeing your bar, Josh? I mean, you look like you're in the woods, dude.
Well, I've got, I should turn it around so you can see the actual bar, but
That's fantastic.
it's not, it doesn't have taps. Otherwise I would never get any work done.
Man.
So
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I see now. I see. Yeah.
Francisco, what are your computer preferences?
I've been with Apple for a few years already. I have, I guess, also like, I don't know, 17 or 18 as well with 32.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to buy 2 of these fellows, Super Magic. Lovers.
Right.
that's what I use. Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't work. And I'm waiting maybe this year I'll ask for a change for the M1, which everybody says that is best ever.
Yeah, I can't wait.
It is nice. The battery life is a lot better, but it doesn't get hot. I hate the way the Intel Macs get pretty warm.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter but when you actually have it in your lap, you're like, oh damn, this is a hot machine.
Yeah, I know, especially if it's July. Right now it's great. You're like, ooh, that feels nice. But yeah.
I did find it a useful heat warmer when I was working outside in the fall. I was like, it comes up my legs.
That's right.
I've actually got two that I use. I've got a 2015, which has the old style keyboard, and it's only got 16 gigs of RAM, but it's still a workhorse, But that thing, whenever I use that on my lap, it sounds like a jet taking off because the fans just spin up on it and go crazy. The other one, the 2019 I've got, quiet. Is it's a great machine. I really don't have any complaints. The only complaint is the keyboard, which is just stupid. Not really a complaint.
Yeah. I'm glad they came to this sentence with the keyboard.
Yeah. So truth be told, I love Linux machines, and so I like the Mac experience. It's pretty cool. I still consider myself Linux, and I'd like to buy a System 76, but the laptops are just so bulky and hot. And I did a presentation on reactive programming one time in Boulder, and I got on the airplane in Denver, and I'm like, what's that sound? Like there was the jet, the jet was running, but then I also heard, and I'm like, that's not the jet. What is that? And I opened up my backpack, and it was just like, it was just like tons of hot air coming towards me. So I love System 76, but like, the weight and the heat generated out of those laptops is just like, whoa, I can't travel with this. This is rough.
Yep.
Not good for the climate change. No. Yeah.
That's right.
That's a good point.
I was generating more heat than Bitcoin. That's
right. Nice. All right. So let's just go through a couple of these items. We can, you want to mention Vaadin there, Josh?
So I don't know too much about it, but I did see that there is a Vaadin 22 has come out with Quarkus support and Stateless Fusion. So this is the newest Vaadin, and you should probably take a look at it especially if you're using that framework for certain. Seems like it'd be pretty nice, especially if you're wanting to take advantage of Quarkus as well.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed recently, this is just an aside, but there's actually a library that helps you make Quarkus JSF apps too. I forgot the name of it. But it's really interesting to see all the, I love seeing just open source and how different technologies are all welded together by somebody,
Yeah. See that. So Vaadin, if you're not familiar with it, it enables one to develop web application using 100% Java, just Java code. So if you're into JavaFX or Swing or something to that nature, this is probably the framework for you, because you can just develop in Java code and it comes out as a web application. But in the latest version, it does have, of course, a large set of UI components, and it's got something called Vaadin Fusion. And it's a framework for building reactive front-end apps in TypeScript and type-safe communication to a Spring Boot backend. So I imagine that they're now kind of branching off a little bit.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So not just in using the 100% Java to create those UI components, or use those UI components, but now they're also allowing me to use things like TypeScript. So,
that makes total sense. And one of the things that I've always liked about Vaadin, and actually I recently been talking to Jonas, who used to be the CEO a while ago, but they were one of the early embracers of web components. And if anyone who listens to this podcast knows that I'm a big fan of web components as sort of the preferred sort of long-term strategy for writing UI components for the browser. To me, that's really where things need to go. And I've always loved that Vaadin has done that. I actually use their pure web components on a few projects without the Java part. Yeah. But this is interesting. So, and it looks like they've also embraced Lit Element, which it was sort of the framework from Google that replaced Polymer, which is what they were using before. So this is kind of interesting. I didn't realize they had a different option where you could actually write TypeScript as part of their whole framework. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Indeed.
So another news, I'll let you add to this, Josh, but MicroProfile, which is the set of sort of standard APIs for building microservices using Jakarta EE and other Java technologies. That MicroProfile 5 should be out today, which is December 3rd. So by the time you hear this, it should be out. And again, just a reminder, you can find us at stackpodcast.com. You can read the show notes there. But Josh, you want to tell us more about MicroProfile 5?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't know a ton of detail on MicroProfile 5, but I do know that there are major releases for most of the separate specs that are in, or the APIs, if you want to call them, in MicroProfile. So you'll have config 3.0, fault tolerance 4.0, health 4.0, metrics 4.0, and so on. So it's a pretty big release, and it's going to align with a handful of specifications from the Jakarta EE platform, and especially with versions in Jakarta EE 9.1 now. So this is going to kind of align with 9.1, MicroProfile 5. And as you had mentioned, Kito, it does say the release date is today on the site. I'm not 100% certain that it's going to be today, but it will be very soon. So just stay tuned for sure on that.
Yeah, and just so you know, if you're not familiar, basically with MicroProfile, like there's several different implementations. So pretty much if you're looking at Open Liberty or Payora Micro, Thorntail or Wildfly, Tommy E, Helidon, Quarkus, Wildfly Swarm, Kamaluzu EE, I probably said that wrong. And doesn't Quarkus support a lot of, I said Quarkus. Okay. Yeah. So basically all those are different MicroProfile implementations. So lots of choices there.
Yeah, for sure.
And along the same lines, Helidon 2.4 is out. Helidon is the MicroProfile implementation from Oracle. And that includes Java 17 support, which is awesome.
Nice.
So that's one thing I was glad to see about that. Also has some more Oracle Cloud Infrastructure integrations, and a nice feature, which is MicroProfile LRA, long-running actions. This is an early access release. So it's a loosely coupled transaction model that is based on the Saga pattern for distributed transactions, and relaxes some of the ACID constraints, but lets you do distributed transactions as well. And also what I noticed in this release is that they've got integration with Microstream. And if you listen to the last episode that we had of Stacked, we talked to one of the Richard from XDev, who's worked extensively with Microstream and does Microstream consulting. So it's nice to see Helidon integrating with that as well. So Microstream lets you, it's basically like a high performance Java native persistence engine, essentially. So yeah, I'm just kind of excited to see that. Lots of cool features in Helidon 2.4. And I guess the last thing we have here is Open Liberty 22.0.0.1 beta, right? So this is basically the reference. This is a reference implementation for MicroProfile 5, essentially.
I'm not sure if you want to call it the reference implementation, but it probably won't be one of the first that will include MicroProfile 5 support. Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, and Open Liberty has always been a great product, so that's cool to see.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So those are all the news items that we had. Let's just run quickly through our picks. I've got one, and that is a Rectangle Mac app. So, if you're a Mac user and you want to tile your windows, have them side by side, you basically can do that, but you basically creates a brand new workspace, a brand new desktop for you. And Rectangle is a cool little app that lets you have the windows sort of align without making a brand new desktop. And you can align them in different ways. So it's much more the way Windows 10 works with tiling windows next to each other. And it has all these different options for how you can lay out your windows without actually creating a new desktop. So highly recommended. It's free. It's just a handy little app. I've been using it a lot.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Pretty cool. I also, I'll mention, I recently finally started listening to a lot of audiobooks on Audible, in addition to my podcasts when I'm walking or riding or riding a bike, whatever. So I've always been a big fan of getting things done, which is just a productivity methodology. So you can always check it out. There's an edition which came out a few years ago, which is pretty good. There's also Making Things Work. So I'll put links to that. But just great ways to handle trying to be very efficient with your time. So
nice.
Yeah, I can use some of that.
Yes, it's always good to try and be a little more productive and a little less stressed, right?
Indeed.
So, all right, looks like you've got a pick there, Josh.
So I'm not sure if we covered this in a past episode. I can't remember. jBang. Not sure if you recall that.
I don't think so.
I don't know if we talked about it, but yeah.
Yeah. So this is basically enables you to. I'll just read what they have on the website. It lets students, educators, and professional developers create, edit, and run self-contained source-only Java programs with unprecedented ease. And you can actually run jBang from the command line without even installing it if you want, or you can grab it and put it on your Mac or any of your other devices quite easily. It's in SDK and if you just type in something like jBang init, and then you type in a Java source file like hello CLI.java, it will go ahead and create a runnable, and it'll automatically give you a help file and everything. And if you just go to the website, jBang, I think it's www.jbang.dev, you'll see right at the very top of the screen a nice little demo of how this works. Now, I want to just quickly mention the reason that I saw this was the Java Advent calendar. Not sure how many people are familiar with this Java Advent, but it's a newsletter you can subscribe to. And in December, the month of December, every day you get a new newsletter, and it covers a new Java topic. And so December 1st was jBang. And I saw this and I said, wow, this is pretty neat. And this particular Java Advent covered the jBang catalog. And so there's a feature called catalog, and anyone can publish a catalog. And just goes, it's a properties file, I believe, that goes to a GitHub repository. And it enables you to publish applications quite easily. So you can go to Microsoft and get a Minecraft server just by typing in jBang Minecraft at Microsoft.com or something to that effect. And it will download and start a Microsoft Minecraft server. So anyway, jBang is something that seems like it'd be a pretty nice little tool, utility at least.
That's awesome.
Certainly something worth looking into.
Yeah, I will definitely check that out. There was some Java champions meeting we had a couple of years ago where they were saying, you should just be able to run Java from the command line, without having to think about it, right?
Yep. Yeah, and one of the things that I looked at here, I was looking at this for a while last night. It allows you to run Java in the browser because basically you can use it uses an interpreter, of course, and creates. That's almost like a editor that you can use in the browser and run your code right there. And so you can now, instead of using JavaScript, you can use Java in the browser just by using jBang.
How does that? Okay, now I'm really curious.
It's pretty interesting. You'll have to look at the catalog.
Now I'm curious as well.
Like I said, I'm certainly not an expert or even a novice at this point in this, but I did read a little bit about it, and you can obtain catalogs which will allow you to use Java in the browser, which is very, very nice.
I'm interested because I've always wanted that because, and Francisco will probably agree with me, or maybe not agree with me. But in Scala, we have Scasti, and I love it. It's just an editor, SCASTIE, and it's how we do our editing. And I've been wanting to look for something that is Java based, because sometimes I do a workshop and, getting Java installed, not everyone knows how to do that. I mean, seasoned Java developers know it like, the back of their hand, just like easily bring up a Java instance. But people who are new to Java, that's hard. I mean, that's kind of hard. And, there are some Java classes that I just want to say, look, let's just focus on the code. Let's not focus on IDEs. Let's not focus on, all this extra junk. So I'll take a look at that because that's really, really interesting to me.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
I heard many times from Martin Lersky that he was saying that one of the reasons he thinks why Python is so distributed or so many people use it is precisely because it is so easy to spin and it's just somehow scripted, and you don't need the classes and you don't need to think about inheritance and anything like that. So I really think that, to have that possibility, it just moves you in the right direction. I think it's interesting.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool.
Very cool.
All right. Well, looks like we've come to
I don't have anything because what I'm about to say is probably going to come up in another podcast of ours here soon. So I'll just leave it for that.
Oh, I think I might know what that is.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, Francisco, do you have any neat little technologies or anything that you recommend that you can't live without day to day?
No, really. I'm a simple man.
I'm a simple man. That's right.
What I can tell
one
you,
of them.
Sublime. I mean, just forget about the ID. I mean, one of the things I would say, the less things I have, the happier I am. I mean, just I have my Sublime there and my console. I mean, my command line running SVT if I have to, and that's all I need. And so less is more. At least.
So you are a simple man. You aren't lying there. The JetBrains community also, maybe as part of the news there, they realized that their lunch is getting eaten by Visual Studio Code. So they came out with a lightweight editor that you could sign up for, and you have to be on the list, and then then you can review it. So it's certainly causing some controversy as well.
Yeah, I should. That's a really good point. I think it's called Fleet.
Fleet, yes, that's right.
I knew there was something important I wanted to mention. Yes, Fleet, the next generation IDE by JetBrains, built from scratch, based on 20 years, blah blah blah, and it does sound like basically VS Code. I noticed on Twitter that people were like, "Oh, did you write it in TypeScript?" And they're like, "No, we wrote it in Kotlin and Rust, apparently." Which I thought was interesting. But yeah, I'm going to check that out. I still love IntelliJ, but if they could give me a faster, leaner version of IntelliJ, hey, I'm all for it. And I do like VS Code a lot. I like, I think it's probably my second favorite IDE. If I'm not using IntelliJ, I would probably use VS Code. So,
right.
So yeah, and I think there's a whole distributed part of Fleet as well. Because the whole idea of having part of your environment in the cloud, I think, is part of the whole angle as well.
Yeah.
So. All right, cool. So just a few quick events announcements. ArchConf, December 13th through 16th in Clearwater, Florida. Are you going to be at that one, Danno?
Yeah, I am. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. And is it virtual or is it hybrid or what?
Both hybrid. Yep.
So it is hybrid. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And Code Mash, January 11th through 14th in Sandusky, Ohio. I'll be at that one, and that's actually in person. That would be my first in-person conference since the pandemic. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to it.
See.
Yeah, I know.
It's a wild card year again because we don't know what's going to end up with Omicron. If it's just,
I know.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's actually, and I haven't booked a flight yet, but I'm just about to. So we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Another virtual conference, JChampions Conference with all Java champions. That's January 20th, 21st, and then 24th and 25th. And I'll be speaking at that one. Are either of you speaking at that one?
No.
I'm not. I'm going to be doing moderating. I'm hoping to moderate as many sessions as possible so I can sink in some of this knowledge coming from the champions.
Yeah. And you know what? Actually, I haven't been confirmed, so I'm not 100% sure I'm speaking. We'll just so I'll that's my caveat in case you go there and find out I'm not actually listed. So, all right. And then software design and development in May 16th through 20th, 2020. So that's way next year. And also I noticed there's also a JDay's, what is it? JDay's, I forgot. Anyways, there's another conference in Turkey. So
Turkey, cool.
Yeah, I'll put the link. I think it's virtual this year though. All right, but I'll put the link.
Francisco, do you have any conferences that you recommend in your neck of the woods? No.
I mean, we already did the reactive conference, and it was virtual. It's the only one I know. It was like a couple of weeks ago or 3 weeks ago.
Gotcha.
And, yeah, the only one it's just not since the pandemic. I didn't go anywhere. I don't look anything. I guess I'm a simple man again.
Yep.
Very good point. Oh yes, Josh is adding DevNexus 2022, and that's in April of next year as well. It's a very good one.
I think right now maybe that's virtual. I don't know. I think they're still trying to hammer that out.
I think they're trying to do it in person, but right now they're not sure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. So one of the things I want to close with is that the folks at Manning have offered to give Stacked Podcast listeners a discount. And I believe, I forgot to write down the discount amount. I believe it's 15 or 20%. So if you go to manning.com and buy any book, you can use the code PODSTACKED21, PODSTACD 21, and get a discount. So we'll also put that in the show notes, but we thank them for offering that. And also we'll be making some more announcements on Twitter as well. So.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we thank the folks at Manning for bringing us Francisco. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
It's been a pleasure. It's been great actually to talk to you guys. It's been fun.
Yeah, and I've learned a lot. Now I want to use Akka. So
Akka is cool. Yeah.
Just give me a call, and I will be happy to help you.
All right, I will definitely keep that in mind.
Thank you, Francisco. Next time I go to Madrid or Malaga again, then I'll call you up.
Absolutely. I mean, even UK as well. In London, I'm maybe.
Oh, you're in London as well? Okay, excellent.
So.
Cool.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening, everyone. And I think we probably won't record again until next year. So happy New Year, happy holidays, all that fun stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Right. Thanks, everybody. Later.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Excellent. Have a good one.
Have a good one.